Good evening, wherever you are. If you're hearing this, you're still connected. That means something. This is Jordan Hale, transmitting on frequency 94.6 from what used to be a community station in western Missouri. Now it's just me and this signal, running off a backup generator that I pray holds out through the night. It's day 3 since the shutdown moved from headlines to street corners. What started as budget gridlock is now something else entirely. The government's doors didn't just close, they locked. And behind them, it seems, they left no plan, no fallback, only silence. We're getting scattered word from across the country. The banks shut down this morning. Not just in the cities, not just in DC, everywhere. ATMs offline, debit cards declined, apps won't open, lines forming outside branches that don't answer their phones. Some places tried to keep their drive-through windows running, handing out scraps of cash until they ran dry. Others just boarded up. No one really knows who made the call. Treasury? Fed? Was it automatic? Or did someone, somewhere, decide it was safer to stop everything than let panic drain the system? Whatever it was, it's done. And people feel it. You can feel it. This isn't like last time. This isn't a furlough or a temporary delay. This is different. You can hear it in the way people talk at gas stations, in the way clerks at the grocery store suddenly whisper to each other behind the register, in the way no one asks questions out loud anymore, just glances around like someone might be listening. I got a call patch from a man in Oklahoma City just an hour ago. He said every Chase, Bank of America, and Wells Fargo in his county closed by noon. Said some of the tellers didn't even wait for orders. They just walked out. Left hand-written signs taped to the doors. One read, "System failure. Do not enter." He said the local police showed up at 2 of them, not to help, to keep people back. And they came wearing gear, helmets, rifles, not what you bring for customer service disputes. We're also getting updates, fragmented ones, from major freight hubs. Rail shipments are stalled, trucks rerouted. A listener in St. Louis said he saw 3 18-wheelers parked outside the old FedEx terminal, all loaded, all dark, no drivers in sight. People are scared, not just because they can't access their money, not just because gas is inching past $7 a gallon in some places, but because no one's saying anything. The White House briefing was postponed. The Treasury Secretary hasn't made a public appearance since Friday. And FEMA, well, no one's sure if FEMA's even operating anymore. We tried calling the regional office, got a voicemail. The tone didn't even sound official. I spoke earlier today with a nurse from Denver. She said her hospital is still running, barely. Supplies are tight. People who rely on federal programs are showing up confused, some crying, some angry. And she said the administrator pulled them into a meeting this morning and told them they should start planning for alternate compensation methods if payroll isn't restored by next week. Alternate compensation. Think about that. We're not talking about missed paychecks. We're talking about a healthcare system wondering if it's supposed to go back to barter. And that's just one city. I want to talk to you now. Not as a reporter, not even as a broadcaster, but as someone sitting in the same dark as you. Someone watching the same storm roll in. If you're in a small town, reach out to your neighbors. If your power's still on, use it wisely. Charge what you can. Print what you might need. This might be the last full night before the lines go dark for good. If you've got food, share it. If you've got water, store more. If someone knocks on your door asking questions, ask yourself why they're really there before you answer. I'm going to keep talking tonight. even if it's just into the static, even if this tower's the last one up for miles. Because if we don't speak, if we don't hold the line between silence and chaos, then we're already lost. I'll take a breath here. Let the signal catch up. More to come. I just got a shortwave from a woman in Bangor, Maine. She said the local grocery locked its doors by 5, not because they ran out of food, though that's coming, but because the credit card machine stopped working. People started arguing. A few started taking things. One man threw a shopping basket at the cashier. The owner shut it all down before anyone got hurt. She told me she saw a mother with 2 kids just standing outside in the cold after, clutching a half-full cart, crying. No one knew what to say. No one could help. We are not wired for this kind of failure. Not here. Not in a country that once bragged about stability the way others brag about gold reserves. But here we are. I know some of you are thinking, maybe this is temporary. Maybe the system will kick back in tomorrow. Maybe the patchwork of emergency powers and stopgap funding measures will hold. But listen to me. It's not just that the accounts are frozen. It's that the ones in charge have gone silent. There's something heavier going on, and I can feel it in the way my own phone lights up and then doesn't. In the way calls drop even when the bars say full. In the way certain websites just stop loading. I don't know if this is coordinated. I don't know if it's sabotage or a slow rolling collapse. But I know this. When money stops moving, everything else does too. There's a report out of Atlanta, unconfirmed but detailed, that people started lining up outside the regional Federal Reserve branch before sunrise. Some were there to protest. Others were just confused. Security tried to move them along. Then someone threw a rock. One window shattered. The guards pulled back. Local police didn't show. The building went dark by noon. Same thing in Sacramento, in Chicago, in Dallas. Silent government buildings, barricades made from whatever was lying around, and a growing number of people trying to figure out what comes next when the people paid to plan ahead have left the room. I got a message from an Air Force reservist stationed near Cheyenne. They're still on base, still wearing the uniform, but they haven't been given orders since yesterday morning. No chain of command, no updates, just a memo on the door of the operations center that says, "Stand by for further instruction." That's it. He told me, quote, "It feels like being abandoned on a ship that's still afloat, but no one's steering it." I believe him. People are asking where the president is, where the governors are, why mayors aren't on local TV. But there are no answers, just these blank spaces where communication used to be. To those listening out there, in homes, in cars, in shelters, in basements with wind-up radios, I want to talk plainly. Do not wait for orders. There are none. Do not expect the cavalry. They're gone or waiting just like you are. Do not give in to fear, even when the lights flicker and the trucks stop coming. You are still here. You are not alone. A listener in Montana said they've set up a kind of neighborhood check-in system. Old CB radios, paper maps, cans of beans and dried fruit passed around like it's the Depression again. But it's working. People are staying calm. They're adapting. It's strange how fast we can remember old skills when we need to. How fast we remember how to talk to each other without a screen. Another message came in from Baltimore, a teacher who hasn't seen her students since last Thursday. She said she started walking house to house, checking in on their families, delivering school lunches from a cart she pulls by hand. She says people need something to look forward to, even if it's just a sandwich. To anyone near the Mississippi River, we've got scattered reports that barge traffic has halted. That means less diesel, less grain, fewer supplies for towns that already live week to week. If you rely on deliveries, prepare for disruption. If you live off the land, get to it. Winter hasn't waited for us to get our act together. For those near state lines, consider making contact with people across the border. It seems like some regions are faring better than others. North Dakota still has radio. Parts of New Mexico are still trading gas for food openly. But down in parts of Louisiana and Florida, I've heard things have gone quiet. Too quiet. I won't spread rumors here, only what I've heard directly. But silence is rarely a good sign when panic begins to settle in. I'll pause again soon to keep the line stable. But before I do, let me say this. We built our lives around the idea that the system would always hold, that somewhere in the background, smart people would keep the gears turning. But those gears have stopped. The hum is gone. And now it's just us, trying to figure out what survival looks like when the safety net snaps. Don't lose your humanity. Don't let this new cold creep into your bones and freeze the part of you that still hopes. Stay alert, stay kind, and stay ready. I'll be here. Just got word from someone broadcasting out of Springfield. Said a crowd gathered outside the Social Security office this morning. Mostly older folks. No signs, no chance. Just standing there, waiting for answers. They'd heard rumors that checks were on hold. Some brought folding chairs. Others stood in the cold, coats buttoned tight, faces blank. No one came to open the doors. By noon, people started shouting. By 1, someone kicked the glass. It didn't break, but it echoed loud enough to startle a few into leaving. The rest stayed, not angry, just stuck, as if moving would mean giving up on whatever hope they still had that this was all temporary. We are watching systems that once felt permanent dissolve in real time. What used to be services are now just buildings with lights off and locks changed. This isn't just about government workers not getting paid. It's about people realizing their routines were built on borrowed certainty. School buses didn't run in 4 counties across Kentucky today, not because of fuel, not even because of pay. It was insurance. The transportation contracts weren't renewed. Without signatures, nothing moves. The drivers showed up anyway, standing by their buses, confused, trying to reach dispatchers who didn't pick up. So parents drove, or didn't. Kids stayed home. Some wandered. We've had reports of groups forming small teaching circles in churches and parking lots. Volunteers, former teachers, anyone with a bit of structure in their blood trying to keep a sense of normal alive for the kids who don't understand what it means when Washington goes dark. From Boise, a man said his pharmacy put up a sign that said, "Out of EBT support, bring ID and cash." Only problem was, nobody had cash. The ATMs haven't worked for 24 hours. And credit cards? Don't even try. Someone in the back of the line started yelling. Not violent, just scared. Said his daughter needed her insulin today, not tomorrow, not next week. Today. No one had an answer. I want to be careful not to paint everything with fire. There's still calm in places, still people helping people, still families breaking bread together, even if it's from dwindling pantries. Still quiet porches and dogs barking and morning frost that comes whether the government is functioning or not. But there's a shift. A nurse from Chicago said it felt like living inside a slow-moving fog. Not smoke, not fire, but the kind of fog that makes you question if you're seeing clearly. She said even the patients in the waiting room aren't asking questions anymore, just sitting, eyes on the floor. She said the silence feels heavier than the machines going dark. In parts of Nevada, power has flickered more than usual. We don't know yet if that's related, but we do know some of the regional energy grid operators were running on federal contracts. If those lapse, the chain of command gets messy. Fast. If you're in an apartment, check your water. Listen for the hum of the boiler. If it goes quiet, that's your warning. If it sputters, don't ignore it. Wrap your pipes. Ration warmth. You may not get a second chance to prepare. And to the people calling in asking if this is still just political, I want to say this gently. This stopped being about politics the moment the banks shut off your debit card. This isn't a debate anymore. It's a vacuum. And nature, human nature, doesn't like a vacuum. It fills it with fear, with force, or, if we're lucky, with people who still give a damn about one another. I got a letter this morning, slipped under the station's side door. No return address. Just a sheet of paper, folded neat, weighed down with a small rock. It read, "My mom used to listen to the station every morning. Said it helped her feel less alone. I hope whoever's in there now knows it still matters. Keep talking." I sat with that letter for a long time before opening the mic tonight. To whoever wrote that, thank you. I needed it more than I realized. We all need reminders that the signal matters, that sound cutting through static still carries weight. So here's my reminder to you. If you've got a neighbor who hasn't come out in a while, check in. If you've got a generator, run it carefully. If you've got a radio, keep it on low and close to the wall. You'd be surprised what a voice in the dark can do for the soul. You don't need a title to be a leader right now. You just need to care. That's all we've got left that still holds value. And it's worth more than anything they ever printed on a $100 bill. I'll take a short break. The power's flickering again. Stay with me if you can. Still here, still transmitting. Power's holding for now. Generators warm. Signals steady. If you can hear this, I hope you've found a moment of quiet too. Even if it's just sitting in your kitchen with the lights off, a candle flickering near the sink, wondering how it all got like this. It's strange what you start to miss. Not the big things. Not flights or shopping malls or football on Sundays. It's the sound of a full fridge humming in the corner. The glow of streetlights on your walk home. The polite beep of a card reader accepting your payment. I think a lot of us would trade everything just to hear a cashier say, "You're all set." A report came in from Memphis. A man, works as a mechanic, said his shop stayed open even though the payment systems were down. Said he fixed 3 trucks today for trade. 1 for canned goods, 1 for a gas can, 1 for a promise that the guy would come back tomorrow with clean water. He said, "Feels like I'm working in the Dust Bowl again. Only this time there's Wi-Fi. Kind of." There's something deeply human about barter. But there's also something deeply fragile about trust. And that's what we're leaning on now. Handshakes and hope. Some areas are organizing. Really organizing. In Minneapolis, I'm told a neighborhood watch group has turned into a community response team. They're mapping out who's got medical skills, who has tools, who has food. They're assigning people to check on seniors. They've even started doing low-power FM broadcasts every evening. Short, steady, simple. Not every place is that lucky. A woman in Tallahassee called on the old emergency band. Whispered, really. Said her block's gone quiet. Stores emptied out. One neighbor boarded up and left. Another tried to siphon gas in broad daylight and got jumped for it. She said she doesn't know who to trust. I told her to find one person. Just one. That's enough to start. We don't need 10 heroes right now. We need one decent person on every street corner. Still getting faint signals from Kansas City. A man there said the local food bank's holding on. Barely. Lines stretch down the block, and they've got 2 police cruisers just sitting there, trying to keep things calm. No sirens, just presence. That's something we don't talk about enough. Presence. Just being there. Not solving anything. Not shouting orders. Just standing steady while the rest of the world tips sideways. That's what we're trying to do here. And look, I know this broadcast won't fix your account. It won't refill your gas tank. It won't make tomorrow any easier than today. But if hearing this helps you feel a little less like the walls are closing in, then it's doing its job. You're not crazy. This is real. You're not weak. You've been strong for a long time. You're not alone. Not by a long shot. To the family listening from their basement in Louisville, yes, we got your message. Yes, the coordinates you shared match up with other reports. And yes, if we get more details about that rumored convoy heading west, I'll share them the second they come through. To the teenager in Amarillo who keeps sending Morse code bursts on Channel 7, I see you. You're getting better at spacing. Keep at it. Your signal carries further than you think. To the trucker parked outside Yuma, who said he hasn't seen another rig moving for over 12 hours. Rest if you can. And if you hear noise after dark, don't assume it's trouble. Could just be another driver looking for someone still breathing on the other end of the static. There are millions of us, scattered like seeds in dry soil. And even if nothing grows tomorrow, we still hold the chance that something might. Something human. Something worth rebuilding. I'll share one last thing before we reset the relay. There was a report from Oregon, a woman hiking alone on an old trail near the Columbia River. She said she stumbled on a makeshift camp. 6 people, all quiet, all armed, but not threatening. They gave her water, a flashlight, a scarf. Said nothing else. Before she left, one of them handed her a slip of paper. It read, "If the systems don't return, we still can." That stuck with me. Maybe it will with you too. Back in a moment. You're still there. That means something. Maybe everything. If you've just tuned in, this is Jordan Hale, still broadcasting from what's left of station 94.6. We're holding the line as long as the generator does, as long as the signal holds. It's just past midnight here. I know because the old wall clock in the back room stopped ticking around noon, but my watch still works. I wind it every morning. A small routine in a world that lost most of them. I don't sleep much anymore. Not because I'm afraid, just because there's too much to hear. Sometimes I sit in silence, headset on, scanning channels. Not for answers, just for proof that someone else is out there. Tonight I heard something. A faint transmission from Tennessee. Man's voice, cracked, tired, maybe older. Said he'd been a ham radio operator since 1991. Said this was the first time his rig felt like a lifeline and not a hobby. Said the town near him, Westfield maybe, had formed a perimeter around the courthouse. Generators, supplies, rotating watch shifts. Called it the circle. They're not letting just anyone in. You have to prove you can help. Not just show up and ask. He didn't sound angry about it. Just honest. He said, "We're not building a rescue. we're building a restart. That line's been running circles in my mind. It's not just about making it through the next day anymore. It's about asking ourselves, what kind of world do we want when the dust settles? And yes, I still believe it'll settle. I have to. Otherwise, what's the point of talking into this mic? Across the river from here, in a town I won't name, a listener sent in a handwritten message. Said the local sheriff locked himself in his office, posted a notice on the door saying he wouldn't enforce laws he couldn't uphold. That was yesterday. Today, the people in town got together and took down the road signs leading in. They're guarding their streets with pickup trucks and floodlights. No checkpoints, no banners, just neighbors watching over neighbors. I'm not saying it's right. I'm saying it's real. In Dayton, Ohio, someone's using the old school's PA system to read local news and requests for help. No one knows who it is. Just a voice every morning at 9 and every night at 6. People leave notes on the old front door, and somehow the next broadcast answers them. I call it the ghost of Roosevelt Elementary. If you're the one running it, thank you. You're not just reading notes. You're stitching threads back into the fabric. We got a signal out of Arizona tonight. Short burst from a National Guard unit. I won't say which one. They didn't say much. Just that they're still active, still stationed, still watching. They're not following federal orders because there aren't any. But they've built something of their own. A safe zone with walls. And they're protecting it. They said they're looking for medical volunteers. I'll try to replay the frequency later, in case anyone missed it. For now, I want to talk to those of you sitting in the dark. Maybe you've got an oil lamp burning. Maybe you've got a dog at your feet. Maybe the air feels cold because the heat's been out for days and you haven't told your kids because you don't want them to worry. Maybe you're alone. Maybe you're surrounded by people but still feel alone. I want to say this, and I want you to hear it like I'm right there next to you. You are not forgotten. You matter, even if no one's answered your calls, even if the roads are empty, even if the house next door is dark and the porch light hasn't flickered on in 3 nights. You're still breathing, still listening, still hoping, even if it doesn't feel like hope anymore. This broadcast is for you. For the man in the woods in Vermont who built a windmill out of scrap and wires and sent me a picture of it with a single sentence. It spins, and I live. For the woman in San Antonio who's feeding 5 kids with beans and rice and still finds time to teach them multiplication by candlelight. For the group in the Dakota Plains who started calling themselves the Quiet Ones. No explanation, no backstory, just a name. But they leave messages on the frequency at dawn. Weather reports, sightings, warnings. You've become part of something bigger than the silence. You are the resistance against forgetting. Stay with me. I'll keep talking. There's a cold front sweeping in from the north. I know some of you can feel it already. The kind that settles into your bones even before the wind picks up. The kind that makes wooden floors groan and breath fog in front of your mouth. The kind of cold that finds you when things are already fragile. If you're in the upper Midwest, this is your warning. Prepare now. Find insulation, newspapers, old blankets, towels, seal cracks, pack in with others if you can. Cold is quiet, but it can kill just as surely as any riot. And tonight, it's not just the cold that's closing in. I got a low band transmission from a man just outside Pittsburgh. He used to work in local government, didn't say which department. said they used to run emergency preparedness drills twice a year. Fire, flood, civil unrest, all of it. Paperwork, radio checks, staff rosters. He said those drills never once mentioned what to do if payroll systems failed completely. He said their fallback plans all assumed help was coming from somewhere. State, federal, National Guard, FEMA. No one imagined all of them failing at once. His town tried to keep running. 2 days ago, they gave up on rules. Now, they're just trying to hold each other together. And that's not just one place. It's happening in clusters. Quiet collapses. One streetlight at a time. In Mobile, Alabama, I heard about a church that's become the anchor point for 5 blocks. They've opened the doors to anyone with food, anyone with blankets, anyone with nothing but a need to sit somewhere safe. The pastor's still there. Said he hasn't slept more than 3 hours in a row since Friday. He stands in the hallway holding a flashlight like it's a badge. He reads scripture in the dark not because he wants to convert anyone, but because it gives people rhythm. Sometimes rhythm is enough to keep panic away. We've heard from Anchorage, from Grand Junction, from a stranded couple near Fresno using a car battery to charge a 2-way radio. They said they found an abandoned rest stop with a vending machine that still worked and an old rotary phone that crackled with static. They waited half a day before giving up. Still, they're together, still moving, still human. I want to take a moment to speak directly to the kids who might be listening. The ones who hear this broadcast because your parents won't let you be alone in the other room. The ones who aren't in school this week or last or the week before. I know this is scary. I know it doesn't make sense. But you're doing okay. You're still here. You help more than you realize. With your questions, your quiet, the way you remind the grown-ups to be brave. You are not the problem. You are the reason we keep trying. To the teenagers stepping up, watching younger siblings while your parents look for workarounds or food or answers, we see you. We hear you. You are part of this story, not as background, as heart. A message came in from the Southwest, from a man named Riley, who says he used to run a gas station near the border. Now it's a checkpoint. He and a few others guard it night and day, not for fuel, that's gone, but because it's got shelter and maps and a working weather radio. He said people stop by just to rest. Some stay, some leave. No money changes hands, no bartering, just a quiet agreement. We're not animals. He ended the message like this: the world outside's gone cold, but we're keeping the lights on for as long as we can. That's all any of us can do. So, if you've still got electricity, use it sparingly. If you've still got food, eat enough to think clearly. If you've still got someone near you, tell them you're glad they're there. Even if you argued yesterday, even if you sat in silence today, even if the words come out clumsy, tell them. Because tomorrow might be harder. But if they know you see them, if they know they matter, they'll have a reason to make it through one more day. Back in 20, if the line holds. Back on air, still holding steady. Someone asked earlier, how do you know what's real anymore? That's a fair question. When the networks go quiet and the people with titles vanish, all you've got left are rumors, noise, and voices like mine coming through a cracked speaker in the dark. So how do I know? Because people are still sending messages with their names on them. Because when someone takes the time to write down what happened and folds it into a letter, or taps it out on a battery-drained phone, or drives an hour just to drop it off at a shuttered station window, That's real. Fear isn't the only thing that spreads. So does truth. And you can feel the difference when it comes through. This morning, a man rode up on an old motorcycle. Must have been 70, maybe older. Leather jacket, no helmet. Said he'd come from a town 3 hours south where the mayor finally snapped and tried to enforce curfews with a private militia. Said it didn't end well. Said the people took the streets, not to fight, to block the fight. Said they stood between the two sides and said, "We're not doing this here." The militia walked away. The mayor resigned. I don't know if that town will hold, but I know it held for one more day because a few people stood up and said no. And that story matters more than any press release we're not getting from Washington. A different update came in just an hour ago from outside Milwaukee. The local water plant is still operational, but running with a skeleton crew. They're sleeping in shifts inside the facility to keep the pumps on. Their only request? Help delivering food to the gate so they can keep going. They didn't ask for money. They didn't demand loyalty. They just asked for sandwiches and batteries and a little faith. You think you need 1 million people to rebuild a country? You need people like that. People who stay at their post because they believe keeping the water running might help someone sleep through the night. Out west, we're hearing more about fuel shortages. Not just high prices, no fuel. Towns where the pumps are bone dry, where gas stations are being stripped for parts and tanks are being siphoned by moonlight. If you're driving, keep it short, conserve, travel only if it matters. Better yet, stop for a while. There's strength in stillness too. I had a message relayed in through our backup tower from a woman who was on the road when her bank froze. She'd been visiting her sister in Arkansas, got stranded halfway home. No cash, no gas, no one to call. She said she walked 7 miles to a farm she remembered passing, and they let her in. They gave her a place to sleep, let her wash up, made coffee. She's been helping them sort supplies ever since. She wrote, "The world's breaking, but strangers still open their doors." I don't know her name, but I'll remember her story. There are others like it. One came in from someone traveling on foot through New Jersey, using an old emergency services map to avoid urban centers. He's keeping a journal. Says he wants to write down every town that's still holding on, every diner that still cooks by candlelight, every school that opens its doors, not for class, but for shelter. He's calling it the quiet list. If he hears this, we're listening. Keep going. And to everyone else tuning in, don't forget this part. Yes, the systems are broken. Yes, the people who were supposed to have answers have vanished, but you're still here. And so am I. And that means the story's not over yet. We can be better than what failed us. I'll be back after I check the diesel levels. Talk soon. Generators still humming. That sound, it's like a heartbeat now. Slow, steady, honest. Every few hours I go out and check the tank. Not much left. Maybe 2 days, maybe less. But while it runs, I'll keep talking. Word just came in from a woman near Bismarck. She says the pharmacy her family relied on has locked its doors. Not just closed, boarded up. Said the pharmacist tried to hold out. Even let people come in for emergency refills without payment. But when the shipment stopped and the last refrigerated meds spoiled, he called it. She said he left a note on the door. "I'm sorry." He didn't owe anyone that, but he gave it anyway. That's the kind of man I wish ran the world. Reports from the Carolinas are getting quieter. Not gone, but soft, like the signals fraying at the edges. We had a regular listener from outside Asheville, used to send in updates every other day, just stopped. No messages, no static, just gone. I try not to assume. Maybe they found safety. Maybe their battery died. But it leaves a kind of ache, like a missing tooth in the jaw of this broadcast. Still, we carry on. From Colorado Springs, a group calling themselves The Table sent word. They've turned an old furniture store into a hub. Distribution, water, night shelter. People leave what they don't need, take what they do. No guards, just a whiteboard by the door and a bell to ring if you have news. They said one of their rules is this: no questions about what you used to do, only what you're willing to do now. There's something powerful in that. The world before isn't coming back the way we remember it. Titles don't matter anymore. What you wore, what you drove, what you made on paper. What matters now is who shows up with a flashlight and a steady hand when the rest of the world flickers. I got a letter from a boy in Oklahoma, 9 years old, wrote it in pencil on the back of a grocery bag. He said his school closed last week and his parents didn't want to tell him why. So he listened to the radio when they went to sleep, heard my voice, drew a picture of what he thought the station looked like. It was mostly buttons and a huge antenna on top of a mountain with an eagle next to it. He ended the letter with, "I think you sound like someone who used to smile." I laughed when I read that. Then I didn't. Because he's right. I used to. And maybe I will again. It's easy to forget there are kids out there, quiet, watching, learning what it means to live in a world where the grown-ups don't have answers anymore. We owe it to them to show what steadiness looks like, even when we don't feel steady. A farmer called in from Kansas this morning, said the soil's still good, said if the rail lines come back and the trucks move again, he's ready to grow. But until then, he's planting for the people near him. No market, no middleman. Just hands in the dirt and a promise to share what comes up. He said he never thought he'd see the day where wheat was more useful than a bank account. Me neither. From the northern hills of West Virginia, another update. A group of retired miners has started clearing debris from the old train line. Says they want to open the track by hand. One tie at a time, they told me. Their hands are calloused. Their backs are bent, but they show up at sunrise and keep working until the light fades. Not because someone told them to, because someone has to. Those are the people I believe in, not the ones with microphones at press briefings, not the ones with titles on office doors that no longer open, but the ones whose names you'll never read, the ones rebuilding the world a shovel at a time. If you're listening to this broadcast tonight and you're scared, I don't blame you. I am too. But fear's not the end of the story. You woke up today. You listened. You paid attention. Maybe you helped someone. Maybe you just kept going. That's more than most systems ever taught us to do. I'll be back shortly with another round of updates. If the signal breaks, wait. I'll come back. Don't go quiet. Not yet. The power dipped twice in the last hour. Once slow, like a warning. Once sharp, like a threat. I've got 2 more gallons of diesel. After that, I'll switch to solar if the sun gives enough charge tomorrow. If not, I'll still find a way to talk. Even if it's just whispering into a handheld mic and praying someone's listening. We got a voice from somewhere near Detroit. Didn't give a name, but he was calm. Said the factories are dead silent now. Even the ones that held out during COVID, even the ones that ran skeleton shifts through every crisis since 2008. All of them shuttered. No steel, no tools, no paychecks. Just wind moving through giant buildings that used to breathe like living things. He said a group of former workers meets in the parking lot every morning. They bring their lunch like it's still a shift. They sit on overturned crates. Some talk, some don't. But they still show up, still clock into something invisible. That stuck with me. Sometimes showing up, even when the world says not to, is a form of resistance. Some of you are asking, what's next? Truth is, I don't know. And anyone who says they do right now is either lying or trying to sell you something they can't deliver. But I do know this. The next thing is always built by the people who survived the last thing, and we're still here. From Georgia, I got a message scribbled on the back of a food wrapper. They ran out of notebooks, they said. The letter was wrapped in duct tape, hand-delivered by someone on a bike. Said they'd been watching over an apartment complex. 3 floors, 27 people. They pooled food, shared blankets, even managed to fix the old boiler. They ended their message with this: we're scared, but we're not giving up. We just want to be counted. So count them. Count the woman in Idaho who's digging up old garden plots to feed her neighbors. Count the twin brothers in Virginia who took their dad's old ham radio apart and rebuilt it so they could scan for voices like this one. Count the man in Seattle who's printing off hand-drawn maps and leaving them at shuttered bus stations so people don't wander blind. Count everyone still choosing to reach out instead of turning away. Because right now, the world is measuring things in fear. Empty shelves, cold accounts, locked gates. But that's not the whole story. There's another measurement, one that's quieter, one that doesn't crash stock markets or trend online. It's the measure of who's still trying, who's still helping, who's still choosing hope, even if it's bruised and limping and out of breath. I got a message in code from someone in the Northern Corridor. Said their community was running drills again, not the kind taught in school, not fire or earthquake or lockdown. These are survival drills, quiet movement, signal flares, first aid rotations, food recon. They're not waiting for the world to reboot. They're building their own operating system. And I say, maybe that's the answer. Not fixing what broke, not rebooting what failed, but starting over with the people still standing, with the ones who remember what dignity sounds like, with the ones who show up without being asked. The air outside is colder now. The frost on the windows is thicker. I can hear the wind shift against the walls when it moves wrong, but I'm still here. And if you are too, then we've got one more thing left that works. This voice, this signal. I'll be back when the battery blinks again. The rain came down hard this morning. It wasn't the kind that taps gently on the roof. This was sharp, urgent, angry, like the sky was trying to wash everything away. The roads turned to slush, then to mud. In some places, it didn't drain at all, just pooled into cold, stagnant lakes that swallowed tires and boots alike. I went out to collect water. It's strange how quickly your sense of value shifts. I used to keep bottled water in the back of my car and forget it was there. Now I treat each drop like it's currency, because in a way, it is. The tap's been dry since yesterday. A family from the south end of town stopped by around noon. They'd heard the broadcast, said their generator died, said they were boiling rainwater over a grill, said they'd been living in their basement using candles to teach their daughter how to read. I gave them my last full can of propane and half a box of cereal I'd been saving. They didn't say much, just nodded. The dad shook my hand and looked me in the eye the way people used to do before contracts and apps replaced trust. When they left, the girl turned back and waved. It wasn't a big moment, but it mattered. Some things still do. Word from the South. Houston's gone dark. Not in the dramatic way you see in disaster movies. No explosions. No riots on camera. Just quiet. Phone signals dropped. Online chatter stopped. No radio. Not even static. We don't know what that means yet. But it's never good when a major city goes completely silent. A message came through from someone near Baton Rouge. Said his sister lives in Houston. He's tried calling every hour for 2 days. Said she works at a hospital. Said she texted him a week ago saying they were short on meds but holding together. No word since. He asked if I'd keep her name on air. So if she hears this, Anna Torres, your brother's looking for you. He says to tell you the garden finally sprouted and the dog's still guarding the front steps like he owns the place. Sometimes names are stronger than sirens. To the people in Phoenix, keep your eyes open. I've been getting mixed reports. Some say supplies are still moving there. Others say the airport's closed and checkpoints have gone up on key roads. If you're heading west, have a backup plan. And don't travel alone if you can help it. I know some of you have no choice. I know there are those of you right now packing what's left into an old backpack or the trunk of a rusted-out car, trying to get somewhere, anywhere, that still feels safe. Let me give you this. Take the roads less obvious. Take the ones that zigzag through farmland and cut around the hills. Avoid the highways. They're crowded or empty, and either one can be trouble. Listen for dogs. Watch for light. Trust your gut. If something feels off, it probably is. And if you see someone standing still by the side of the road for too long, don't stop. That's how traps get set. I wish I didn't have to say that, but I do. Because we're not just surviving weather and silence anymore. We're surviving fear. Fear of each other. Fear of the unknown. Fear of becoming something worse than desperate. But here's the other side of that truth. I got a note, hand-delivered, from a group calling themselves Lantern Walkers. They don't say where they're from, but they say they travel in small teams from town to town after dark. They carry old kerosene lamps, bright and visible. If someone needs help, they stop. If someone follows with violence, they disappear. They've helped 9 people get out of blocked cities, brought 2 elderly survivors to a medical tent outside Boise, delivered insulin to a boy in Spokane. No weapons, no trucks, just lanterns. They ended the note with this: "We walk because someone has to." You don't need to move mountains to matter. Sometimes just walking with a light is enough. Back again soon. If the rain doesn't take the antenna with it. The rain stopped a few hours ago. It left behind that thick, heavy silence that only comes after everything's been soaked. You know the one. When the gutters stop gurgling, the leaves don't rustle, and the ground feels like it's breathing slow. I walked the perimeter with a flashlight. The wind knocked over the signal pole, but it's still working. Bent, not broken, like the rest of us. One of the side windows has a crack now, just a hairline, but I'm watching it. It's strange how you start measuring danger in the little things. A flicker in the lights. A noise where there shouldn't be one. A shift in the air that feels more like instinct than fact. That's how you survive now, by paying attention to the quiet. We got a broken signal from somewhere in Nebraska. A man named Will. His voice came through choppy, but clear enough. Said he was part of a small crew, manning a grain silo that's now a food cache. They're not armed. Not official. Just regular folks. Farmers, a vet, and one guy who used to be a high school gym teacher. They take in anyone who helps and keep watch in shifts. He said they've only had 2 theft attempts. Both walked away once they realized someone was awake, watching, and not afraid to speak calmly with a flashlight in one hand. He said, "Turns out decency's louder than fear when you don't blink." I wrote that down. There's talk on the emergency bands of another collapse. Not a power grid, not a bank, but the postal routes. What's left of them? No trucks, no drop-offs, no more mail, even the kind that used to come late. Someone out near St. Louis said they saw postal workers sitting outside a closed depot, still in uniform. Said they just sat there. Like maybe if they didn't move, someone would eventually tell them what to do. No one did. The loss of mail might not hit as hard as losing money or medicine, but don't underestimate what it means. Mail was proof someone remembered you. Mail was birthdays and letters and paychecks and plans. Now it's just another ghost of how things used to work. To the listener from Las Cruces, yes, I got your list. And yes, I'll read it. Not now, but soon. Because your words deserve time, not just airtime. To the couple near Reno who asked if it's still worth planting anything, yes, even if it's late in the season, even if the frost comes early. Plant it anyway, not because it's certain, but because it's possible. That's what planting is, a kind of faith with dirt under its nails. To the man near Tulsa who said he's hearing whispers of a new authority forming. Small group, well-armed, making promises. Be careful. Listen before you follow. Power doesn't mean safety. Safety doesn't mean freedom. And anyone who demands your loyalty in exchange for food should be watched, not worshipped. We've seen this before. Maybe not here. Maybe not in these colors or flags. But across history, this is always the part where someone tries to wear order like a costume and hope no one notices the boots underneath. Pay attention. And if they call it salvation but show up with rifles first, don't believe them. Someone from out east said there's still light in parts of New Hampshire. Hydroelectric stations are holding, thanks to some stubborn engineers who refuse to leave their posts. If you're in range, head toward the power lines that still buzz at night. There's warmth there. And where there's warmth, there's time. And where there's time, there's a chance. I'll pause now. Need to check the seal on the backup door. It's been rattling. If you're still listening, even from under a blanket, even from inside a tent, even from behind a barricaded door, don't forget, this matters. Your heartbeat is a form of protest now. Stay alive, stay kind, stay listening. Back soon. The door held. Just wind this time, but it reminded me how thin the walls really are. It's easy to forget when you're inside, surrounded by shelves and wires and this steady hum of transmission. But step outside for one breath, one gust, and you remember, none of this is guaranteed. Not safety, not shelter, not this voice you're hearing now. And yet, here we are. A new message came in late this afternoon, handwritten in blue marker on the back of a highway exit sign. Someone rode 30 miles just to bring it here. It was from a group calling themselves the Bell Ringers. No formal group, no hierarchy, just people. They travel in pairs, always pairs, On bicycles, pulling makeshift carts. They go from town to town, leaving wind chimes behind. Old silverware, keys on string, tin lids and washers, anything that makes a sound. They hang them near doorways, on porches, in alleyways. Not for decoration, for signal. If you hear them ringing when no wind's blowing, it means someone's nearby. Someone not supposed to be. And if they're not ringing when the breeze is strong, someone took them. It's low-tech, but it works. That's what they wrote in all caps at the bottom of the sign, "No tech, still works." We've lost a lot of tools, but not all of them. Some things don't need batteries, they just need hands. To the listener in Maine who said they're using cans to communicate between buildings, brilliant. Keep the wire taut, keep the knots tight, and don't let the line droop. You've got a telephone now, and no one can shut it off. A man in South Dakota said he's teaching his neighbors Morse code using firewood and flashlights. They practice every night at 8 p.m. 3 short flashes, 3 long, 3 short again. He said last night, 2 miles away, someone flashed back. That was the first light they'd seen on the horizon in days. Some of you are asking, is this forever? I wish I had an answer. But here's what I do know. Forever doesn't happen all at once. It starts with today. And today, people are still choosing to build. Still choosing to reach out, not wall in. Still teaching their kids how to purify water and how to whistle across fields. Still listening to this. That means something. Another message, this one from a woman just north of Salt Lake. She used to work at a call center. Now she runs a supply board in an abandoned gas station. She painted "Need, Have" on the outside wall in spray paint. People come by, write what they can give and what they're looking for. Chalk, markers, anything. Someone wrote "baby formula," and someone else wrote 2 cans, take 1. No passwords, no approvals, no systems. Just trust and chalk. She says it gets wiped clean by the wind sometimes, but people always come back, always write it again. Because some things, kindness, help, food passed hand to hand, matter more than whether the power's still on. To the man near Cleveland, who says he's been carrying a radio through an empty mall, hoping to hear my voice, you just did. To the woman in Jackson who wrote that she's been reading books by candlelight out loud to her block, keep going. You're not just passing time, you're passing down memory. That's how we survive this. Not just by eating and drinking and moving quietly, but by remembering who we were and deciding who we want to be after this. And maybe, just maybe, we get to be better. Even if no one comes to rescue us. Even if there's no restart button. Even if the banks stay closed and the headlines never return. I'll stop here for now. The generator needs fuel, but I'll be back. As long as you are. As long as there's something worth saying into the dark. The air is colder tonight, not just in temperature, though the frost is creeping in earlier and staying longer, but in feeling. You can sense it in the way birds have stopped calling after dusk, in the way the sky turns gray long before it should, in the way people move now, quieter, slower, always watching. We got a pulse signal from someone north of Cincinnati, just 3 words, tapped in Morse code, holding, need fuel. That's all. No name, no location, just a flicker of a voice in the static. We relayed the message, Maybe someone will hear. Maybe someone will answer. Sometimes that's all we can do. Throw sound into the dark and hope it lands near someone still standing. A woman wrote in from the Blue Ridge foothills. She said she hasn't seen her neighbors since last Thursday. The lights in their cabin went out and haven't come back. She left a note on their porch. No response. She's been leaving food anyway. Just a small basket, dried fruit, jerky, a jar of honey, every other day. She doesn't knock, doesn't call out, just walks up, sets it down, and walks away. Says if they're still in there, they'll come out when they're ready. And if they're not, well, the forest will take it. Either way, she said, kindness costs less than regret. We got a ping from Colorado, someone relaying from an old ski resort. They've turned the lodge into a safe point. Not quite a camp, not quite a town, more like a waypoint. They take in people heading north or west, let them rest, feed them, listen to their stories, then send them off with a hand-drawn map and a pack of supplies. They don't ask where you're from, just where you're going. That's starting to be the real difference between those who survive and those who hold power, the ones who ask forward questions. Where are you going? What do you need to get there? What can I do right now to help? A man in Missouri wrote me something that I've been turning over in my head all day. He said, "We spent our whole lives training for stability, but maybe we should have been training for disruption." He's right. We were taught how to build resumes, not root cellars, how to give TED Talks, not treat drinking water. We knew how to tag photos, but not trap heat. But we're learning now. Not because we want to, because we have to. And necessity is the best teacher there ever was. Someone from the outskirts of Las Vegas shared a story. Said a group of performers from one of the old casinos have turned their stage into a makeshift school. They teach math with dice and probability, language through song, science by building solar heaters from broken mirrors. They call themselves the Leftovers. They wrote, "We used to be entertainment. Now we're survival." I think that's beautiful. I think maybe we were never meant to separate those things so cleanly. Learning, play, story, truth. Maybe it was always meant to be messy, human. And maybe if there's a world after this one, it won't need offices full of empty suits or press briefings full of deflection. Maybe it'll just need people who remember how to teach kids with broken mirrors and warmth in their voices. To the woman in Sacramento who said she hasn't spoken to anyone in 5 days, I hear you. To the boy near Lubbock who said he's keeping a journal even though no one might read it, keep writing. To the man who just sent a single word on Channel 2, here, I see you. So do others. Keep the fire going. Even if it's small. Especially if it's small. Back after I check the signal tower. Still here. Still talking. The tower's still standing. The cables are damp. The wind's biting harder tonight. But the signal's holding, and the hum is steady. A soft reminder that not everything has failed. We got another message just after sunset. It came in through a relay station someone set up outside Spokane. A woman's voice. She didn't give her name, just a call sign and a location. A rest stop turned shelter. She said it started with 3 people. Now there's over 20. Some were strangers. Others were just faces she'd passed 100 times at grocery stores, gas pumps, sidewalks. All of them now eating together, sleeping in shifts, keeping watch from the rooftop with a scope and an old rifle they never thought they'd have to use. She said they're figuring it out. They take turns reading by flashlight, share weather updates, even started keeping a whiteboard tally of how many days they've made it since the shutdown crossed from inconvenience to collapse. Today marked day 19. No aid, no answers, but still breathing, still counting. A young man from Detroit sent in a letter on the back of an old menu. You could still see the lunch specials bleeding through the paper. He wrote, "My sister says the worst part isn't the cold or the hunger. It's not knowing what day it is anymore." He asked if I could start saying the date again, even if it doesn't matter. So for him, and anyone else who needs an anchor, today is Thursday. Or what used to be Thursday, January 25th. We've had 25 sunrises since the shutdown first made the news scroll across every screen. We've had 19 since the banks went dark. It's not about the number. It's about reminding ourselves that time hasn't stopped just because the world did. A boy in El Paso wrote in that he made a calendar by hand on the back of cereal boxes, crosses off each day with a stick of charcoal from the grill, says he's keeping track for his mom, who doesn't like looking outside anymore. He says she sleeps better when he tells her, "It's just one more day." That kind of kindness, the quiet kind, doesn't make headlines, but it builds something. Something the shutdown couldn't cancel. Something even the dark can't erase. There's a voice out near Topeka, old guy, scratchy mic, signal like gravel, who reads poetry on Channel 3 every night. Sometimes it's his own. Sometimes it's Walt Whitman. Tonight he read something I'd never heard before. Said it was from a notebook he found in a thrift store 15 years ago. The last line was, "We bend so we don't break. We speak so we don't disappear." I wrote that one down too. Another listener, from outside Missoula, shared this. They've turned an abandoned bowling alley into a shelter. Stripped out the pins, put down mats. The ball returns hold flashlights. The lanes are sleeping rows now, 8 wide. She said no one's really sleeping much, but they lie still anyway. Because sometimes stillness feels like safety. They cook over a single camp stove, take turns keeping the doors watched, let in anyone who knocks as long as they knock twice, then once. A rhythm someone made up that now feels like a password. Every small group, every gathering is creating its own language, its own code. Because when the old systems fall, people don't stop talking. They just start talking in new ways. And those ways? They're starting to echo. I've picked up phrases, short ones, passed along from state to state. Keep one light low. Trust the dog. 2 short, 1 long. Trade is truth. Don't knock twice unless it's safe. Words become ropes we throw to each other across the void. Hold on to them. I'll stop here. The signal meter's dipping again, and I need to cool the transmitter for a bit. Let it breathe. But I'll be back. I always come back. Because as long as there's a voice, as long as there's a place to put it, we're not done. And you're not alone. I'm back. The transmitter's warm again. The wind's dropped just a little. It's quiet out there. The kind of quiet that feels unnatural, like the whole world is holding its breath. When this started, I used to wait for things to return to normal. Thought maybe it was all just temporary, a delay, a disruption, something the right press conference or emergency bill could undo. Now, I'm not waiting anymore. Not because I've given up, but because there's nothing to wait for. The world we had isn't coming back the way it left, And maybe, that's not all bad. Maybe it's a chance. A man out near Salt Lake said they've cleared out an old strip mall, pushed all the debris to one side, built fire pits in the parking lot, lined the roof with reflectors. Now it's a staging ground, not a shelter, not a fortress, just a place to pause, rest, regroup, decide. He called it the threshold. He said they don't ask questions when you arrive, just when you're ready to leave. Which direction? That's all? Sometimes I think about what direction I'd choose if I left this station. North, probably, toward the places where people say the trees still outnumber the questions. But I'm not ready to leave. Not yet. Too many of you still listening. Too many voices still rising out of the noise. We heard from someone near Atlanta, a woman who said she ran a daycare before everything stopped. Now she's taking care of 6 kids whose parents haven't returned. She reads to them every night by flashlight. They sleep in a semicircle, heads on old couch cushions, hands touching. She says they only cry when the batteries die. She's running low on food. I'm relaying her position on Channel 4 every hour in case someone nearby can help. Even a sack of rice, a jug of clean water, a new set of AA batteries. You'd be surprised how much hope fits in a grocery bag. Another story from the north, a small diner that's become a message board. They don't serve food anymore. The fridge doesn't run. The booths are stacked with canned goods and flashlights and maps, but taped to the windows are dozens of scraps, names, notes, scribbled updates and questions. Seen Joseph F. since the 12th? Truck broke down west of 91. 2 people on foot, headed east. Have fuel? Need rice? Will trade blankets or aspirin? It's a bulletin board for a country that forgot how to deliver its mail, and it works. Every day, someone adds a new piece. Every day, someone else takes one down, folds it carefully, and sets off in the direction it points. This is what resilience looks like now. Not in headlines, not in speeches, but in the quiet stitching of 100 broken places, pulled closed by people who never asked to be the ones holding the needle. From the West Coast, we're still getting reports of partial grids working, especially places where solar farms survived the looting. Communities have sprung up around them, guarded, yes, but not hostile. Shared power means shared rules. No noise after dark. No visitors without a reason. No threats. One of them sent a list of their rules. At the top, you are responsible for the warmth you bring. I think that's the best law I've read in months. Better than anything printed on a hill that's now locked and empty. I'm going to rest the mic for a while. Save power. Let the signal breathe. But I'll be back before long, if you're listening. Send something back if you can, even if it's just one word, even if it's just, here. The wind shifted sometime around 3 a.m. I know because the sound on the roof changed, less like fingers tapping, more like breathing through broken windows. The kind of wind that finds its way through the smallest cracks. That reminds you, your walls aren't as strong as they used to be, but we're still here, still transmitting, still choosing not to go silent. A few hours ago, I picked up a burst from East Texas. Low power, short wave, barely came through the static, but it was someone reading names. Just that, a list of first names and towns. I don't know if those people are alive, or missing, or gone, but I know someone out there still thinks of them, still speaks them out loud. And that matters, because once the names stop, the memory fades. And once the memory fades, well, we become something less than what we were. So if you've lost someone to the cold, to the silence, to the miles between, say their name tonight, even if no one else hears you. That sound still holds weight. Another update from Kansas. A man who once ran a community theater said they've reopened the stage. Not for plays, not yet, but for news. Local updates, missing persons, skill-sharing sessions, story hours for kids. No lights, no mics. Just one person standing under a broken spotlight and telling the truth to anyone who still wants to listen. He said people show up. They sit on crates and buckets and old car seats. They don't talk much, but they listen hard. Said it reminds him of the old days when words mattered more than screens. I think a lot of us are remembering that now. From the Carolinas, someone wrote in about a man walking up the coastline with a cart full of tools. He stops in small towns, fixes things, radios, bikes, cracked windows, solar panels, then moves on. Doesn't ask for payment, just asks for stories. He carries a notebook and writes down everything people tell him. Calls it his salvage log. If anyone sees him, tall flannel jacket, bright orange knit cap, give him safe shelter if you can, and maybe something warm to eat. People like that are bridges now, and bridges are rare. I've been asked how I keep going, how I keep talking into a microphone when there's no one to answer. But the truth is, there are answers. They just come slow, quiet, in flickers. A scratchy reply on channel 3. A paper note slid under the door. A knock, 2 short, 1 long. They add up. They remind me that somewhere, someone is choosing hope. Not the big, cinematic kind, not speeches and flags and bright lights, just the hope of seeing another sunrise with someone sitting beside them. A listener in Oregon said she keeps a notebook full of good signs. Every day, she writes down one thing that proves the world hasn't ended yet. Yesterday it was, the neighbor's dog barked again. Today she wrote, someone left canned peaches on the porch. If you're hearing this, I hope you write something down tonight, even if it's small, even if it's just still here, because you are, and so am I. Until the next cycle, keep warm, keep kind, keep reaching out. We're not done yet. The skies cleared a little around dawn, not blue, not yet, but enough to see shadow lines stretch across the street again, enough to feel the difference between night and morning. That's something we lost for a while, the rhythm of time. Without alarms, without buses, without emails. Days stopped having edges, but light still draws a line, even now. A farmer from southern Illinois radioed in, short range, said his cows broke through the fence yesterday, said he didn't blame them. They'd gone too long without movement. He let them wander, then followed them at a distance. They didn't run. They grazed, moved slow, found their way back on their own. He said it felt like they knew where to go, even without him. I wonder if we still do, he said before the signal cut out. It's a question I've been asking too. Do we still know how to come back? Not to what we had, that's gone, but to something real, something better. I keep thinking about a message from someone near Flagstaff. She said they've started boiling pine needles in water for vitamin C. Said it tastes awful but keeps the illness away. She called it forest tea. I like that. Not just because it works, but because it reminds me that nature didn't collapse when the government did. The earth didn't flinch. Birds still sing, rain still falls, seeds still try. And if they do, maybe we can too. Out near Grand Rapids, a woman with a background in chemistry said she's been teaching kids how to make basic soap. Says it's messy. Says it takes patience. Says they laugh when the lye fizzles too fast. But they're learning. Their hands get cleaner. Their smiles come back. They start asking questions again. She said, teaching kids how to make soap feels like planting a flag. She's right. Every useful thing we teach now, every skill passed hand to hand, is a seed for whatever comes next. We got another note today, folded into a child's drawing of a house with no roof. Inside were stick figures, 5 of them, and the words, "We're okay." No name, no location, just hope, scribbled in crayon. Whoever sent that, thank you. You reminded us all what okay looks like even now. A scout from a mutual aid group near Denver sent coordinates. Said they've cleared a stretch of road using nothing but crowbars, rope, and a truck with half a tank. Said they're opening it for travel between communities, on foot, on bike, maybe even wagons. They call it the corridor. Said they post people every mile. Signal with flags. Red means danger. White means clear. Blue means shelter ahead. I'll share those coordinates on Channel 6 tonight for anyone nearby. It's not just a road. It's proof that effort still matters. That people still move toward each other, not just away. I've been sleeping less. Not out of fear. Out of duty. Every time I close my eyes, I wonder who's reaching out. Who might miss their window if I'm quiet too long. Who might give up if they don't hear something, anything, cutting through the noise. So I'll keep talking. And when I rest, I'll leave the receiver open. So if you need to speak, do. Even if it's a whisper. Even if it's only still here. The sun made it over the ridge a little while ago. Weak light, but steady. Enough to glint off the broken glass in the lot across from the station. Enough to remind me the world is still turning, even if we're not sure where it's headed. Still no signal from the East Coast. It's been days now since we last heard anything out of Philadelphia, Baltimore, or D.C. Not even static. The silence is louder than gunfire. And I think that's what's getting to people most. Not the shouting, not the chaos, but the nothing. We used to live with a background hum. Traffic, text alerts, distant sirens, planes overhead. Now, nothing. Just wind, footsteps, dogs barking in the distance, the creak of houses no longer filled, and our own voices. If we're lucky. We got a relay from a group stationed outside Minneapolis. They've taken over an old gymnasium, reinforced the doors, piled sandbags against the windows. Inside, it's warm. Not from heat, but from people. A dozen cots, a food line, a small corner where someone teaches first aid with pictures torn from old books. They don't call themselves a camp or a shelter. They just wrote, "We're a circle." Simple, but strong. They don't turn anyone away unless they bring violence. And if someone can't work, they tell them stories. Because stories count too. Somebody, no name, dropped off a handwritten log of broadcasts. Every one of my messages since day 4. They've been writing them down, word for word, storing them in a binder wrapped in plastic. They wrote on the first page, "When this ends, we'll need to remember how it felt." I sat with that for a long time, because that's true. isn't it? We remember what happened, but we forget how it felt. And how it felt is what really tells the story. How it felt to have your card declined when the banks froze. How it felt when the checkout lines stopped moving and nobody knew why. How it felt to see the first window boarded up. How it felt when your neighbor came by with extra food. How it felt when you realized you had to speak quietly in your own home. Not out of fear, but because the silence outside had become so loud. That's what this is really about. Not just survival, but memory. Not just memory, meaning. A mother in Boise sent a message. Said her daughter turns 5 today. Said she made a cake out of rice and powdered milk. No frosting, just a candle carved from an old crayon and a wick made from string. She said, "It won't taste like cake, but it will feel like love." If you're listening tonight, wherever you are, light a candle if you can, not for celebration, for remembrance, for proof that we still mark time, that birthdays still matter, that 5 years old still means something in a world where some people didn't make it past Tuesday. I've been asked if I ever feel lonely up here. The truth? I do. But it's a different kind of lonely. Not the kind you feel when no one's around. The kind you feel when you know someone is out there, but you just can't reach them yet. But every night that I hear a reply, every time I get a scrap of paper under the door, or a signal on the scanner, or a knock with the right rhythm, I remember why this matters. Because this isn't about broadcasting into the void. It's about bridging it. I'll go quiet for a while to cool the relay. Batteries dropping again. But I'll come back before night. Stay close to the light and keep your signal open. It's night again. That long kind of night that feels like it might never lift. The stars are out, but dim. The moon's behind clouds, the kind of dark where shadows don't stretch. They sit, still, quiet, watching. I've lit 2 lanterns inside, not because I need them, just because light reminds me I'm still here. Someone out near Wichita sent a package, old vacuum tubes, a note, and a small jar of honey. Said the tubes might help extend the life of the backup relay. Said the honey was for hope. I haven't opened it yet. I'm saving it. Because sometimes just knowing something sweet is close by is enough to keep going. We got a shortwave ping from a mountain ridge in Tennessee. A woman there says her group has managed to tap into a hydro line and power a few shelters. They've rigged it with timers. The lights come on for 1 hour after sunset, and then again at dawn. That's it. Just enough to feel like the world still turns. She said, "It's not much, but it keeps people from forgetting where morning is." Another message came in from a man outside Tulsa. Said he used to be a line cook. Lost his job when the shutdown started. Then lost his home. Then the bank closed, and he couldn't withdraw his savings. Now he runs an outdoor kitchen using salvaged propane tanks and scrap wood. Feeds whoever shows up. Said he doesn't ask for anything in return except silence. Just 15 seconds of stillness before they eat. Not prayer, just silence. He said, people don't know what to do with that at first. They fidget, look at their shoes, tap fingers. Some cry, but they come back. Every night, even without food, they come back. Because the silence is the only thing that still feels like peace. A woman from Louisiana sent in a story that I haven't stopped thinking about. She was walking near the edge of town when she heard music. Faint, distant, not a radio, not a phone, Real music, played live. She followed it, down a hill, through trees, to a man sitting on a porch, playing cello. Alone. No audience, just the instrument and the air. She said she sat on a rock for 20 minutes before he even noticed she was there. When he did, he just nodded once, kept playing. She said it was the first time in weeks she felt like her heartbeat slowed. That's what art still does, even in ruins, even when we've lost everything else. It reminds us we're more than hunger and panic. We're still people. There's a group forming outside Santa Fe. They're trying to build a school, not with bells or tests, just knowledge, basic stuff. How to sew, how to grow, how to treat infection, how to speak clearly over a radio, how to read a map, how to read each other. They meet in a barn with no walls, just posts, sit in a circle, take notes with charcoal on old pages torn from junk mail. Someone teaches every day, even if there's only one person listening, because that's how you build back. Not with noise, with care. If you're listening tonight and you feel like the noise is all that's left, like the anger, the confusion, the shouting, I want you to hear this. The quiet is still here too. It's in the sound of water boiling, in the way boots press into dirt, in the pause between words when someone says your name. That quiet? It's waiting for you to notice it again. I'll keep this short tonight. The batteries are dipping faster than usual. I'll switch over to solar trickle in a few hours. Until then, keep warm, keep gentle. And if you have to choose between shouting and listening, choose the one that lets someone else feel seen. Back again soon. Still here. It's late. Later than most nights I stay on the mic. But something about tonight, it doesn't feel finished. There's a quiet out there that isn't peaceful. It's loaded. Like the sky itself is waiting for someone to say something honest. So I will. I'm scared too. Not every second. Not even most of the time. But it comes in waves. Like a draft under a door that used to stay sealed. It shows up when I hear nothing but static on the relay, when I boil water and wonder if there'll be more tomorrow, when I say, "See you soon," to someone over the wire and never hear from them again. But I've learned something. Fear doesn't mean we stop. It means we keep going with our eyes open. And I think that's what survival really is. Staying awake when it would be easier to look away. A man near Dayton built a forge, not to make weapons, to make nails. Just nails. He said no one thinks about nails until they need to keep a roof from falling. Says people trade him jars of beans, half-full lighters, stories. He listens more than he talks. Keeps a chalkboard in his shop. Writes down things people say that stick with him. One of them was, "The world's quieter now, but the stakes are louder." We got a message from a camp near the Nevada line. They've started building windbreaks from car doors and metal siding. Painted signs with handprints on them. Red for caution, white for safe, green for kids. They've rigged a bell system using bike cables strung between trees. If the bell rings twice fast, everyone freezes. If it rings once and then pauses, it's someone coming home. They say it works better than walkies. Doesn't need batteries, just tension. That's the word I keep hearing these days. Tension. Between people. Between moments. Between what we remember and what we're willing to face now. But sometimes that tension holds things together, not apart. It's like a bridge cable. Stretched, yes. Strained, always. But without it, there's no crossing. Another note tonight, this one from a little girl near Traverse City, said her mom lets her listen to the radio while they sort rice, said she draws what she imagines I look like. She drew a man with headphones and a bird on his shoulder. I don't have a bird, but I wish I did. Something to carry messages when the wires finally fail. She ended the letter with a single line, I hope your voice never breaks. That one got me, because my voice does break sometimes, when I'm off the air, when I'm alone, when the news is too heavy and the hours feel like they've doubled in weight. But I get back on, because there's someone out there listening with a pot of rice and a pencil, imagining a stranger with a bird on his shoulder, and that's enough. It has to be. One more thing before I rest this hour. A man in southern New Mexico said he's been building something out of mirrors and wires and busted phones. Says he thinks he can boost signals using the heat of the sun. He's close, he says. Not there yet. But every morning, he aims it at the sky. And that's all we're really doing here. Pointing something broken at the light and hoping it carries. So until this signal fades, I'll keep pointing it your way. Still here, still trying, still choosing to speak while the world holds its breath. Just after 2 a.m. now. The wind's dropped, but the cold has teeth. There's frost on the inside of the window. Thin, ghostly. I keep wiping it away with the sleeve of my coat, even though I know it'll come back. Just like everything else that doesn't want to be forgotten. Got word tonight from a rail yard outside Omaha. Someone, or maybe a group, has been moving supplies across the Midwest using old freight cars and hand-pumped trolleys. They call themselves the track walkers. No engines, just muscle, rope, wheels. They move quietly, only at night. They leave crates behind with chalk symbols on them. A circle means food. A triangle means tools. A star means medicine. No names, no promises. Just quiet help. They don't wait to be thanked. They just move. That's the new kind of leadership now. Not people with microphones and podiums. People with bruised palms and broken boots. People you might never see, but feel when the hunger lifts for a night, or when the cold is kept out by a blanket someone left behind. We got a letter folded inside a ration tin, dropped off at the relay box on the west side. It had a note written in ink that had started to run. We shared the last can of soup tonight. Nobody argued. That's all it said. I read it 3 times, because that sentence is the clearest proof I've heard in a while that humanity hasn't vanished. Not yet. To the people near Albuquerque, the solar station at mile marker 119 is still live. At least for now. They're rotating usage. 3 hours on, 3 hours off. If you need to charge anything, get there before sunrise. Leave something behind if you can. Even if it's just a message. Someone else out west said they found an old vending machine still working off a backup battery. Said they didn't take all the snacks. Just enough. Left a note on the glass that read, "Take what you need, leave what you can. We're not done yet." That machine's more of a society than what most banks were before they locked their doors. We've heard from more people trying to restart local currencies, not paper money, trust tokens, flat stones, marked wood, carved washers. It's not about value anymore. It's about memory, a way to show, I helped you once, you helped me. Let's not forget. Trade is slow, careful, face to face. That's the only kind that matters now. I've been tracking the messages coming in from the Appalachian corridor. Dozens now, all whispering the same phrase. Winter's holding the line. I think it means the infection hasn't moved through there. The cold, the distance, the mountains. Maybe they're slowing it down. Maybe something is finally working in our favor. If you're heading that way, bring food. Bring extra. Bring silence and respect. Don't take more than you leave behind. That might be the closest thing to law we have left. People keep asking what's happening in Washington. I don't know. I doubt anyone really does. But I can tell you what's happening in basements and fields and train yards and quiet hills. People are building something new from the ruins. Not a copy of what we had. Something humbler, slower, built from eye contact and firelight instead of policy and profit. I think maybe that's the part they never planned for. They thought, if they froze the money, we'd freeze too. But we didn't. We adapted, like roots around concrete, like hands that never stopped moving. I'll rest the mic for a bit, let the batteries climb. The lantern's low, and my voice is starting to crack. But I'll be back before sunrise. Same signal, same voice. Still here. The horizon's starting to shift. Still dark, but not the same kind of dark. There's a line, faint, steel blue, just above the hills. That's how you know morning's on its way, even if the sun hasn't broken through yet. And that's enough. A message came through early. Weak signal, but clear enough. A nurse in what used to be a small urgent care clinic outside Indianapolis. She says they've repurposed the building, torn out the front desks, cleared out the waiting room chairs. It's a shelter now. No power, no meds beyond aspirin and gauze, but clean water, some bandages, a hand-cranked blood pressure cuff. She said they see 5-6 people a day, all of them scared, most of them quiet. They don't ask what happened, they just help. Her voice cracked when she said, "We're not saving the world, but maybe we're saving pieces of it." I think that's what we're all doing now, picking up pieces, choosing which ones are worth holding on to, which ones we can let go. The banks? They're just buildings now. The accounts? Gone. But kindness? That still has value. So does patience. So does silence, when it's held between people who trust each other, not to fill it with noise. Someone near Helena sent in a list they've been keeping. Just small things they've noticed over the past 20 days. I want to read some of it now. Someone replaced the batteries in the street lamp near the fork in the road. It blinked once, then held steady. The old man on Birch Street has started waving again. A child in a red coat is leaving chalk drawings on the pavement. Today it was a sunflower. We ran out of flour, but nobody complained. We made soup instead. It's strange, isn't it? What starts to feel like news when everything else stops. Waves, drawings, light that flickers once, then holds. That's what we measure now. We used to measure in dollars, deadlines, demands. Now, we measure in human moments. A man from an old farm town outside Tulsa said he spends most mornings walking the empty fields with a notebook and a stick. He checks for tracks, for signs someone passed through, leaves arrows in the dirt pointing toward shelter, or safe water, or food left under a tarp. He signs each one with the same symbol, a circle inside a triangle. He doesn't know who follows the signs, but he keeps making them. Said it helps him feel useful. And I think that might be the key. In a world without systems, the most powerful thing left is a person who wakes up and chooses to help someone they'll never meet. Out east, a woman who used to teach literature is holding story circles in what's left of a church basement. She reads from memory. Sometimes the others do too. They pass around scraps of poems, tell ghost stories and folk tales by candlelight. She said last night, someone cried when they heard the last line of a fairy tale they hadn't heard since childhood. Said they didn't know they needed it until it was spoken out loud. That's why we still tell stories. Because they remind us we were whole once. And that we can be again. If you're listening right now, in a truck, in a tent, in a basement, under the stars, know this: the world hasn't ended. It's just shifted, and we're still inside it. I'll pause here. Let the solar line charge a little more before the next transmission. But I'll be back, and if you're still listening, if you're still breathing, if you're still paying attention, that's enough. That means we still have a signal and a reason. Dawn broke about 20 minutes ago. Not loud, not bright, but real. A soft light spread over the rooftops like it remembered where to land. I stood by the window for a while, just watching it, letting it warm the glass, letting it remind me that things still move forward, even without orders, headlines, or government press releases. A boy from Ohio sent a message in pencil on the inside of a cereal box. Said his dad used to work at the DMV, but now helps organize food runs. Said his mom teaches the other kids how to boil water, how to fold clothes so they stay warm longer. Said his little brother is too young to understand what's gone wrong, so they tell him everyone's just on break. At the end of the note, he wrote, "I miss knowing what day it is." So here's the answer, if he's listening. It's Saturday. It's cold, and we're still here. A woman from outside Baton Rouge said she's been trading old recipe cards for supplies. People leave her beans and candles in exchange for handwritten instructions on how to make bread without yeast, how to stretch canned meat with rice, how to bake over a fire in a trash can lid. She said, "My grandmother's handwriting is keeping people full." I believe her. Another update from the far north. Someone up near the border wrote that a group of hunters and old rangers have set up a kind of perimeter through the woods, not to keep people out, to guide them in. They hang cloth strips on branches, green for water, yellow for shelter, red for danger. Sometimes the wind tangles them, but someone always goes back to fix the lines. They said, if the trees are still standing, we should be too. I had to stop when I read that. Because it's true. The trees didn't fold when the money failed. The mountains didn't disappear when the banks did. The wind still carries messages. And this world, broken and bruised and burning slow, still turns. Someone in what used to be Chicago wrote in that they've been broadcasting over a PA system once a day from the rooftop of a school. No signal, just voice. A woman stands on the edge and speaks loud enough to reach 2 or 3 blocks. She doesn't give news. She gives encouragement. She reads lines from books. Says things like, "Today is a day you made it. You are not lost. You are not forgotten." People gather, not to respond, just to hear. Because sometimes a human voice, a real one, close enough to feel, is the only thing keeping the dark from taking over completely. A message came in from someone riding north through Arkansas. She's got a bike with patched tires and a dog that runs beside her. Said she stops at every church, every outpost, every mailbox still standing. Leaves behind notes. Some are directions, some are prayers. One just said, "I forgive you. I still remember your face." She didn't say who it was for. But maybe that's the point. Forgiveness doesn't need to know the outcome, just the intention. We've had so many systems fail now that it's hard to remember which ones we needed and which ones we just got used to. But one thing hasn't failed. Not entirely. And that's the kindness people still extend without asking what they'll get back. That's the currency now. Not dollars, not digital tokens. Just moments. A warm place to sleep. A hand on the shoulder. A voice over a radio at the edge of dawn saying, "You made it through the night." So if you're hearing this, and you've got just a little more light in you, pass it on. Even if it's just a smile, even if it's just a bowl of something hot and honest, even if it's just staying when someone else thought you'd leave. Back in a little while. The light's climbing, and so are we. The light's strong enough now to see the edges of the clouds. Not just color, but texture. Like someone scraped gray across the sky with the side of a pencil. It's strange, the things you start noticing when the noise dies down. When there's no screens telling you what to look at. Just the world. Raw. Honest. Unfiltered. We got another signal from a river town in Missouri. They're building what they call a listening wall. It's not metaphor. It's literal. A section of cracked concrete painted with chalkboard paint. Anyone can write something there. A question, a worry, a name they're searching for, and anyone passing by can leave an answer. If they have one. If they don't, they just read. The idea isn't to fix everything. It's to prove we're still trying. Sometimes I think that's the only difference between what's human and what's not. The trying, not the winning, not the solving. Just the effort, over and over, to reach, to mend, to hold on. A man out in the plains wrote in to say he's been using kites. Yeah, kites. He ties LED lights to the tails, lets them fly just after dusk. One color for all clear, another for need help, another for don't come this way. It's quiet, it's visible, and it's weirdly beautiful. He says sometimes he just lets one fly for no reason at all, just to remind the sky that someone's still beneath it. We got a packet from northern Michigan. Inside, seeds. Wrapped in cloth, sealed with wax. A note. These grew once. They'll grow again. No return address. Just trust. That's happening more now. Quiet gestures, silent trades. Leave something, take something. No negotiations. Just a sense that if you give honestly, something will come back to you. Maybe not from the same person, but from somewhere. A woman in Utah has been collecting broken glasses. All kinds. Prescription, reading, sunglasses. She repairs them best she can. Sets them out in a box at the town square. No signs, no price. She says, if someone can see a little better, maybe they'll believe again. That line stuck with me. Because belief is hard these days. Not faith in something above. Just faith in each other. That someone will answer the knock. That someone will boil enough for two. That someone will speak your name when it's your turn to be remembered. A boy near the Gulf Coast sent a note through someone on foot. Said he's been making tiny lanterns out of glass jars, wicks, and cooking oil. Leaves them on fence posts. lights them every night. Not because he needs them, because someone else might. He ended his message with, "The world feels less dark when something glows, even if no one's looking." I think about that a lot. How much light we've lost, not just electric. Moral light, emotional light. That small internal warmth that made us say hello to strangers or stop when someone dropped something. But we haven't lost all of it. Because you're still here. Because I'm still talking. Because someone, somewhere, is stitching gloves from old sweaters to keep another set of hands warm. Because a woman in Idaho sent me a folded paper star and said, "For your ceiling, in case you can't see the real ones." That star's hanging above me now. The glue's old, but it holds. So do I. So do you. I'll pause the transmitter here. Let the battery bank cycle. Back soon. Still here, still lit, still listening. Just checked the northern antenna, still intact. Bent a little more from last night's wind, but the signal's holding. The tower creaks when the gusts hit just right. It almost sounds like breathing. I listen to it sometimes when I'm too tired to speak. Just the wind and the steel and the pulse of a transmitter that shouldn't still be working, but does. Kind of like us. We got word from a woman out in the desert, Arizona or maybe New Mexico. Hard to tell with the way signals bounce now. She's been building ovens from clay and beer bottles, earth domes that hold heat through the night. Said she hasn't eaten anything warm in weeks before she made one. Now, she bakes flatbread. Says it smells like home. A man in the Rockies is keeping bees. He didn't mean to, just stumbled on a hive in an old barn. Instead of running, he watched. Left a saucer of water nearby. Came back. Left a bowl of sugar water. Came back again. Now they don't sting. He calls them his golden roommates. Says he hasn't harvested any honey. Not yet. Just lets them live. Lets them hum. Because the sound reminds him of something he can't quite name, but doesn't want to forget. Maybe that's what this whole broadcast is. A hum. Not a scream, not a plea. Just something steady. Low. Constant. That tells you something alive is still here. Someone outside San Diego said they found a working windmill. Not a big one, just enough to pump water from the ground. They've dug a trough and put up signs. Anyone who passes through can drink. No questions, no names. They carved into the wood. If you're thirsty, you're home. That one hit hard, because thirst isn't just water. It's quiet. It's dignity. It's someone saying, "You belong," without needing a reason. Back east, faint message out of West Virginia. A kid using a CB radio in an abandoned ranger station. Said he checks it every morning. Said he keeps a notebook of anything he hears. Static. Bits of songs. A man coughing. Once, he caught someone laughing. Just once. He wrote it down. Wrote, "Someone laughed today." Didn't even care what they laughed at. Just that it happened. That's what counts now. Not the full story. Just proof there's still a story. A listener near Reno said they've started quiet hours. Not because of danger. Not because of curfew. Just to let the quiet in. No talking. No hammering. No questions. Just an hour after sundown, when everyone sits still. They light candles. They listen to the wind. They don't check anything. They don't fix anything. They just are. She said, "It's the only time I don't feel like something's chasing me." Sometimes what saves you isn't a wall or a plan. It's a pause. One last message before I rest the line for a bit. It came from a woman near a collapsed freeway overpass. She's planted wildflowers in the cracks, scatter-seeded them with the last of what she had: sunflowers, poppies, milkweed, daisies. She wrote, "They probably won't bloom, but I want the sky to have something to look down on that isn't ruin." I sat with that for a while, because she's not planting hope. She is hope in the middle of the rubble. No guarantee, no reward. Just a reason to make something beautiful in a place that forgot what beauty felt like. You listening to this right now? You're part of that too. You're what's left and what comes next. I'll let the line cool, let the air settle, but I'll be back, always back, as long as this world still hums. It's just past midday now. The sky's gone pale, that strange color between silver and nothing. Not cold, not warm, just still. It reminds me of the waiting room at a hospital, that same quiet tension, the sense that something's happening, but no one knows what, and no one wants to ask. That's what most of us are living in now, the long in-between. Not the world we had, not the one we're building, just the space between breaths. A man sent in a page torn from a Bible, not to preach. He blacked out most of the text, left only a few words. "I was here. You were not alone." That's all. He signed it with a fingerprint in soot. That page is pinned to the wall now, right above the switchboard. Every time I flip the mic on, I see it, and I remember the words don't have to be perfect, just true. Someone outside Detroit left a box near an old train platform. Inside, matches, socks, half a bottle of iodine, and a note. The note said, "I had more than I needed today." That's it. No return address, no story, just generosity without performance. That's how we survive this. Not with declarations, with decisions. We got a voice from Colorado Springs, a former teacher who's been walking house to house offering to teach. No classroom, no whiteboard, just her voice and a stack of old National Geographics. She teaches kids how to name birds, how to find edible plants, how to read wind direction from a flag on a broken pole. She said a girl asked her last week, "What grade is this?" She answered, "The one where you learn to stay human." A group in Montana has begun building what they call the long shelf, a mile-long row of supplies, one item every 5 steps, a trail of help, canned beans, salt packets, lighters, handwritten tips, wire, gloves. They say if you're headed north, follow the shelf. They don't expect to meet the people they're helping. They're okay with that. Because building something for someone you'll never meet is the closest thing we have now to a blueprint for recovery. Someone left a hand-carved sign outside the station gate this morning. It just says, "This voice matters." I stood there for a while. Didn't bring it in, didn't move it, just read it. Maybe that's the best thing any of us can do with the voices we still hear. Read them, listen to them, repeat them. Someone near Little Rock said they've begun broadcasting bedtime stories from the roof of a community center. No kids in sight. No confirmation anyone's listening. But every night, just after 9, the same man reads from an old collection of fables. Slowly, clearly. Because sometimes it's not about who hears it. It's about knowing you said it. We got a letter from a teenager on foot, heading east. She wrote, Everyone keeps waiting for someone else to be in charge, but I think it's us now. She's right. There's no cavalry, no recovery plan coming down from a podium, no press release that unfreezes what's frozen. It's just us. The tired, the kind, the broken but still walking. We are the ones in charge of what comes next. So take care of your corner, your one neighbor, your one voice, your 1 square mile of road that you can keep clean or safe or kind. Because if we all do that, this ends up being more than collapse. It becomes rebirth. I'll pause here, but I'll keep the line open, always, for anyone still listening. It's just after 3 p.m., somewhere out there, in a different version of this country, people would be heading back from lunch, swiping badges, checking emails, arguing over spreadsheets in quiet conference rooms. Here, it's quieter than that, but heavier too, because now every minute matters. Every meal is earned. Every hour of safety feels temporary. Every kindness feels like a miracle. And every silence carries weight. We got a scratchy transmission from a coastal town in Maine. Woman's voice, tired but steady. She said the lighthouse near the edge of town still works. Not every night, but often enough. Said an old man goes up there with a backpack full of car batteries, plugs one in, turns the beam out toward the sea. No boats, no answers. But he lights it anyway, because someone might be looking. She said, I think it's his way of telling the ocean we're not done yet. That line stuck. Because so much of what we do now isn't about being seen. It's about refusing to disappear. There's a man near Amarillo keeping a field clear just so the stars can reflect off the ground at night. Says he does it so someone flying overhead, if anyone still is, might know someone's still alive down here. He drags tin sheets into symbols after sundown. Circles, arrows, words like, still here, and need help. And once, just the word, hi. He's never heard a reply. But he hasn't stopped either. A woman near Salem said she's been hand-copying poems onto scraps of cloth and tying them to fence posts. Nothing big. Just fragments. Lines about rivers and light and quiet. Things that feel like they come from before. She said a child passed one the other day, stopped, read it, and smiled. That's it. No applause, no miracle, just a smile. It was enough. Another voice out of Utah, deep static, but the message was clear. A mechanic has been restoring bicycles from the wreckage of car lots. He paints them bright colors, adds baskets, leaves them leaning against trees with notes that say, take me, use me well. He said, movement is the first freedom. I can give that back. To the person in Memphis who asked if the shutdown's ever going to unshut, I don't have a neat answer. The systems we trusted, they weren't built to bend. So when they broke, they didn't just pause, they shattered. But people didn't. People bent, folded, stretched, rewired. We're not waiting anymore. We're replacing. And what's rising now? It doesn't look like banks or offices or press briefings. It looks like rice being shared between neighbors. It looks like a wind chime made from tin spoons. It looks like a woman with a radio, reading bedtime stories into the dark. It looks like this. Right now, you, listening. Me, speaking. A thread pulled between silence and hope, still intact. Another listener, southern Idaho, wrote something I want to share. The difference between a ruin and a foundation is whether you plan to rebuild. That hit me hard, because we are surrounded by ruins now. But maybe, just maybe, they're the bones of something better, something slower, something real. So if you're out there, wondering what's next, maybe it's this. You, your hands, your voice, the space around you that you can reach. Rebuild that, and then help someone else do the same. That's the blueprint. And I'm still here, sketching it with you. Back soon. Same signal, same voice, still breathing. The wind picked up again around 4. It rattles loose panels on the side of the station, soft, steady tapping, like fingers at a door that never opens. It's not violent, just persistent, like the world reminding me it's still out there, waiting. I haven't seen another person in 3 days, but I've heard you. That's enough. The messages are thinner now, fewer. The batteries don't last as long. Some signals feel like they're breathing their last just as they reach me. But even a dying signal is still a signal, and that means we're not finished. Someone sent in a hand-drawn map. No roads, just terrain. Hills, trees, old barns, X's marked in places with notes like cold water, safe fire pit, dogs bark here. It was drawn on the inside of a cereal box, folded 7 times, delivered by foot. The note said, "If one person makes it because of this, I'm okay." That's what selflessness looks like now. Not grand gestures, just choices. We got word from an old diner in Georgia. Someone's turned it into a radio hub. Not for broadcasting, for listening. People show up, sit at old booths, turn dials, write down what they hear. They call themselves the Quiet Net. If they catch your signal, they'll write you back. By hand, on paper, folded and passed town to town until it reaches you, or what's left of where you were. There's something holy about that slowness, that effort, that faith. I think maybe faith is what happens when you write a letter, knowing it might never get there, and send it anyway. A group outside Pittsburgh said they've been repainting old billboards with messages like, "Turn left for clean water," "Safe firewood 2 miles," "North is safer." Sometimes it gets painted over. Other times, someone adds to it, draws a symbol, leaves a date. That's how we're writing history now. On concrete, in chalk, in charcoal and rust and torn paper, in the way someone hands you the last match without asking for anything in return. That's history now. That's government now. That's survival now. A girl in Florida sent a message wrapped around a dried orange peel. Said she hasn't seen her dad in 11 days. Said her mom won't let her cry anymore because the sound carries too far. So she hums instead. Quietly. Just under her breath. She ended her letter with this: "If you're listening, please say my name." But she didn't sign it. Just said, "You'll know it when you feel it." So, to whoever wrote that, I don't know your name, but I feel it. Right now. Right here. Like heat off a cracked radio. Like the faintest thread of music drifting through this silence. You matter. You're still here. And someone, a stranger on the other end of a broadcast no one funded, no one owns, just spoke for you. I'll be back before dusk, letting the rig cool, letting the world breathe. If you're still with me, I'll be right here, Same signal, same sky, still reaching. The sun is low now, not gone yet, just brushing the edge of the hills like it's reluctant to leave. The kind of light that makes everything golden for a moment before the cold returns. I stood outside the door for a while, let the air hit my face, watched the trees shift, listened to nothing. It's strange how loud nothing gets once you know what to listen for. We got a coded message through a buried line from the outskirts of St. Louis. Someone rigged a landline repeater off an old phone grid and started a daily check-in protocol. They're calling it the heartbeat, one tone every hour. If it's steady, everything's stable. If it skips, they need help. If it rings twice, someone new has arrived. No voices, just tones, like Morse code for survival. A listener near Boise wrote in with something I haven't stopped thinking about. She said, "The world used to run on answers. Now it runs on listening." I think that's true. Nobody wants fast fixes anymore. Just someone who won't look away when things get quiet. Someone who will stay. We've gotten updates from the north. Finally. Near Duluth, a group of volunteers has formed what they call a moving refuge. Every 3 days, they pack everything onto sleds and haul it further inland. They move slow, but they don't stop. They've turned their own journey into a living map. If they pass through your town, they leave 3 things: firewood, boiled water, and a story. Not just news, real stories. About people. What they lost. What they built. What they still dream of. They say when the world gets small, stories make it wide again. I believe that. A boy in a southern camp, Alabama, I think, wrote that he's been carving birds out of pine. Small ones. Flat, with wings out. He leaves them on doorsteps before dawn. Said he doesn't want thanks, just wants people to remember the sky. He ends each bird with 3 dots burned into the wood. A signal. A promise. A prayer, maybe. We got a voice from a flooded road near Galveston. A woman traveling by boat. She said the streets are gone. The gas is long since used up, and the homes half sunken. But she's still moving. Still floating. She's made a map of high ground from the rooftops, drawn in charcoal on the inside of her boat's hull. Said she calls it the dry thread. She said, "You don't need to know the whole way. Just the next patch of solid ground." Maybe that's all any of us need right now. Not the whole plan. Just one good place to land. If you're listening tonight, whether you're in a basement, a barn, the back of a truck, or lying under the stars wondering what's next, hear this. You don't have to know the ending. Just make it to morning. Just find a little dry ground and breathe. Then help someone else do the same. That's how the world comes back. Not in a wave, but in handoffs, in pieces, in the way light passes between mirrors in the dark. Back soon. I'll keep the line clear in case someone's trying to reach me. Still listening. Still alive. Still yours. It's dark now, fully. The last edge of light pulled away like a tide, slow and soundless. I've lit 1 lantern in the booth. Just enough to see the dials, the pages, the board. Anything more feels wasteful. And honestly, anything brighter feels loud. This world, it's a whispering one now. And that's okay. We got a voice signal, faint but clear, from someone near the old oil fields outside Midland, Texas. He said they're using the abandoned rigs as signal towers, The metal's still strong, the height's good. At night, they light them with flares made from cooking oil and old cotton rags. He said, "The things that once drilled down are finally reaching up." That line stopped me, because he's right. We used to dig so deep, for fuel, for money, for speed. Now, all we want is a little lift, something vertical, something that says, "I'm here." Someone's hanging colored glass in trees near the foothills of Montana. Different shapes, each one etched with a single word. Safe, water, noises, north. They catch the sunlight during the day. At night, they chime. People have started calling them the glass warnings. Not out of fear, out of care. Even warnings are kindness now. That's how much we've changed. A man in the Appalachian corridor said he's been using a wheelbarrow to move books between shelters. Not food, not bullets, not batteries. Books. Says they're just as vital. He reads to people when they're too scared to sleep. Passes around pages to those who can't remember what learning felt like. Said last week a kid recited 3 lines of a poem he barely understood, but remembered anyway. He said it felt like fire catching on dry wood. We got a message from someone outside Bakersfield, a woman who used to run an animal rescue. She started training dogs to carry supplies between outposts. They run with packs strapped to their sides, cloth, wrapped tight with duct tape, food, bandages, paper notes. She calls them the runners. Says they never ask questions, just wait for the bell, then go. Sometimes they come back alone. Sometimes they don't come back at all. But she still trains more, because hope, she says, is a relay, not a finish line. Another voice, this one crackling over an old ham unit near the Rockies, a teenager who's been walking for 9 days, said he hasn't heard from his brother since the banks failed, said he follows any road with hand-painted arrows, sleeps in church basements, moves only by day. He said, "I'm not lost. I'm just between places." That stuck, because I think we all are, between the world that failed and the one we're still inventing, between silence and signal, between collapse and something worth standing up in. So wherever you are tonight, I hope you find a place to land. Not forever, just for now. A porch, a truck bed, a barn floor with a tarp pulled over your shoulders. Something that feels like pause. Because tomorrow, we keep building, with rice sacks and notebooks, with kites and signal flares, with small kindnesses and louder listening. I'll go quiet for now, but I'm not leaving, just giving the night some space to speak. Still here, still lit, still open.